Perfection. It's a word that sounds so inspiring, yet so heavy at the same time. Most of us carry the hidden belief that if we could only reach some state of perfection, then everything would finally fall into place. We would be loved, admired, secure, and free from judgment. But what happens when we chase this idea of perfection? Strangely, the harder we chase it, the more broken we feel. The more desperately we want to be flawless, the more flaws seem to appear. It's as if the very pursuit of perfection sharpens the magnifying glass through which we see ourselves. Have you noticed this in your own life? Maybe you've tried to look perfect at work, always on guard, careful with every word, every move. Or maybe in your personal life you've tried to be the perfect partner, the perfect friend, the perfect parent. But instead of feeling fulfilled, you find yourself drained, anxious, and dissatisfied. And if you're honest, you probably see your own shortcomings more clearly than ever before. Why is that? Why does the pursuit of perfection create the opposite of what we long for? Jiddu Krishnamurti often pointed out something profound. The idea of becoming something is the seed of conflict. When the mind says, "I must be this," it immediately declares that what I am right now is not enough. That gap, that distance between what is and what should be, is what creates suffering. If you think about it, perfection is not something real. It's an image. It's an ideal projected by the mind, shaped by culture, by society, by comparison. And when you measure yourself against that image, you can only end up feeling incomplete. The more you measure, the more you find yourself lacking. You notice the wrinkles on your face, the hesitation in your voice, the flaws in your personality. What you once never thought about becomes a constant source of insecurity. And soon, life itself feels like an endless race you can never win. Perfection becomes a carrot dangling just beyond reach. You run faster and faster, yet the carrot keeps moving away. So let's pause and ask, what if perfection itself is the illusion? What if the pursuit of it is not only impossible but also unnecessary? Krishnamurti would say that to see this clearly is the beginning of freedom. Because the moment you stop chasing an image of what you think you should be, you begin to see what you actually are. And in that seeing, in that acceptance, there is a quiet kind of wholeness. Think about a tree in nature. Do we ever look at a tree and say, that tree should be taller, its branches should be straighter, its leaves should be greener? Of course not. We see it for what it is, with all its twists, bends, and scars. And somehow, it's beautiful precisely because of those things. But when it comes to ourselves, we rarely offer the same compassion. We compare ourselves to airbrushed images, to curated versions of other people, to ideals that no human being can actually live up to. And then we wonder why we feel so fractured inside. This doesn't mean we stop growing or learning. It doesn't mean we sit still and do nothing with our lives. But growth is very different from chasing perfection. Growth happens naturally, like a flower blooming when the season is right. Perfection, on the other hand, is artificial. It's a demand, a constant pressure that squeezes the joy out of living. So the real question is, can you see yourself without this demand for perfection? Can you simply observe yourself, your thoughts, your fears, your actions, without labeling them as flaws or achievements? Just to watch, quietly, without judgment. Krishnamurti often reminded us that in this watching, a transformation takes place. Not because you forced yourself to become something, but because seeing clearly is itself a kind of liberation. When you let go of the chase, you begin to notice something subtle. Life is already whole as it is. Your imperfections are not obstacles to living fully. They are the texture of being human. The laugh that sounds too loud. The scar that tells a story. The mistakes that shape your understanding. These are not signs of failure, but expressions of a life lived honestly. And here's the paradox. When you stop trying to be perfect, you actually become more genuine, more present, more alive. People connect with you more deeply because you are no longer hiding behind an image. You're not performing, you're simply being. And in that authenticity, there is a beauty far greater than any idea of perfection could ever give. So maybe the next time you catch yourself chasing perfection, pause. Ask yourself, what am I really chasing? Is it love, approval, safety? And could it be that these things don't come from reaching some flawless state, but from being present, real, and open right now? Because the truth is, the more you want to be perfect, the more imperfect you will feel. But when you stop wanting to be perfect, you discover something extraordinary. There was never anything missing to begin with. Perfection has always been a clever trap of the mind. It whispers to us that if we only try harder, if we only discipline ourselves more, then finally we'll arrive. But notice what this whisper does. It keeps us endlessly moving toward a future that never arrives. And in that constant pursuit, we forget to live now. This is why Krishnamurti often spoke about comparison. He said the moment you compare yourself to another, you've lost touch with your own reality. Because in comparison, there's always someone taller, smarter, richer, more attractive. There's always some version of better that makes you feel small. And when you build your life on comparison, you're never really living your own life. You're living in the shadow of others. Think about social media today. It's a machine built on comparison. You scroll through endless images of other people's perfect lives, perfect vacations, perfect bodies, perfect relationships, and you measure yourself against those images. But here's the truth. Those images are curated, edited, filtered. They are not reality. Yet we torture ourselves as though they were. And in that torture, every flaw in our own life becomes magnified. But what if we stopped? What if we could step back and see that the idea of perfection is just another story? A story we've been told since childhood. Be the best. Stand out. Achieve more. We've been conditioned to believe that worth is something to be earned, something to prove. But is that really true? Or is worth something inherent, something already present in simply being alive? When you look at a newborn baby, do you think, this child must prove their worth? Of course not. You see their innocence, their wholeness. That same essence is still within you. It hasn't gone anywhere. But the mind, through years of conditioning, has built layers of judgment on top of it. And those judgments create the illusion that you are incomplete. So, what happens if we question that conditioning? What happens if we don't accept the story that we need to be perfect? Suddenly, life feels lighter. There's room to breathe, room to make mistakes, room to simply exist without constantly trying to fix yourself. And in that space, something remarkable emerges. A natural intelligence, a natural clarity. Krishnamurti described this as freedom from the known, meaning freedom from the images, labels, and expectations that society has placed on us. When you drop the image of who you think you should be, you meet yourself directly, not through judgment, not through comparison, but through direct perception. And in that perception, you realize you are not broken. You never were. The irony is, perfectionism often comes from the desire to be loved and accepted. We think, if I can be perfect, no one will reject me. But in truth, people don't connect with our perfection. They connect with our humanity. Think about the people you love most in your life. Is it their perfection that draws you to them? Or is it their quirks, their laughter, their vulnerability, their realness? Chances are, it's the latter. So why would it be any different with you? The more you try to be flawless, the more distant you become, from yourself and from others. But when you allow yourself to be human, to be imperfect, you actually invite deeper connection. People feel safer with you, because you're not performing, you're not wearing a mask. You're simply there, present and authentic. And that is far more beautiful than any polished image of perfection. So maybe the real question isn't, how can I be perfect? But rather, can I be fully myself without the weight of perfection? Can I allow life to unfold without demanding it meet some rigid standard? This shift doesn't just free you, it frees the people around you too. Because when you stop demanding perfection from yourself, you stop demanding it from others. You allow them the same space to be human, to stumble, to grow. And in that shared humanity, something deeper opens up. Compassion. Compassion for yourself and compassion for others. A recognition that we are all carrying scars. We are all learning. We are all works in progress. And maybe, just maybe, That's what makes life beautiful. Not the flawless image, but the real, messy, unpredictable truth of existence. So remember, the more you want to be perfect, the more flaws you'll see. But when you drop the need for perfection, those so-called flaws dissolve into something else. They become the very texture of life, the marks of being human. And in that acceptance, you might discover that what you were chasing all along was never outside you. It was already here, in the simple act of being. So in the end, the pursuit of perfection is not really about becoming whole. It is about running from the fear of being seen as we are. And that fear, if left unexamined, will keep us trapped in an endless cycle of self-criticism and disappointment. But if we can pause just for a moment and look at ourselves without judgment, something shifts. We begin to see that life is not asking us to be perfect. Life is only asking us to be present. Think about it. Every breath, every laugh, every mistake you've ever made has shaped the person you are right now. None of it was wasted. None of it was wrong. It was all part of the unfolding of this moment. And when you stop fighting against yourself, you can meet life with a softness, with a clarity that perfection can never give. So maybe the true freedom is not in becoming perfect, but in realizing you don't need to be. You are already enough, as you are, right here, right now. And from that realization, a genuine strength, a genuine beauty, and a genuine love for life can finally emerge.